Yeah, so if it's your first time, this is what the kind of home page, I guess. After you've logged in, this is what you've got. If you've never created a project, you more than likely won't have any panels here. But very, very simple. This is just where your projects live. Up the top is blogs and things like that. You can, if you want, you can click my project and get rid of them, and then you're just in your projects. On the left-hand side, you have your. I can mark it up a little bit easier. Yeah, so you have like your home, my projects, like I said, tutorials. We're trying our best to expand this, but if there's anything that you are really looking for, please honestly send me an email. We're more than happy to either write the tutorial, do a video to try to help you guys out. So more than happy for that as well. And then the blog, like I said, and then your generation. So this will be like things that you've generated in the past, pretty much everything. And that's the basics, right? So I have a project that I already started playing around with, but I want to start from scratch with you guys, but I'll just show you the basics of what it's like when you have things in your project. So it might be a combination of sketches to initially start with, material palettes, test renderings, enhancements. You might also have 3D models. So it's essentially a little bit of a playground where this left-hand side is essentially what we're calling sessions. So this is any type of content. It could be images, video, or 3D, and that becomes the input for your rendering essentially. Up the top, up here, highlighting that there, is essentially the tool navigation, right? We have I think five kind of separated tools, which eventually might become one. But today they're image, which essentially is a feed of all the images that you've generated. It's an easy way for you to get up and running if you're just wanting to like start with text. You don't have an image that you want to edit. Edit is essentially this, which allows you to add in your image, just drag and drop it onto the canvas. Real time is as you would expect. It allows you to generate real-time imagery, really real time. Enhance does the enhancing. So if you have an image that's maybe a lower resolution, or you want to add additional sharpness, then the enhance will do that. And then video, self-explanatory. It'll do your videos or help you get up and running with video. And the main thing that I'm sure you've noticed if you've been playing around with Fenestra already is that the prompt bar stays the same, but also adds and subtracts tools. So what you'll see, let me see if there's one more guest coming in. Okay, cool. Yeah, so what you'll see in this prompt bar, I have like start frame, end frame. When I switch to real time, I then have a set of tools that change and a set of models that also change depending on the tool that I'm in, essentially. And these are all just very specific to that use case. So that's the kind of overview of what I guess the entire UI interface is like. But I think what we can do is start a brand new project, and I think what we can do is start with some virtual staging, starting from an empty interior and starting to add furniture to the space. So for that, you can do it in any way you'd like. You can either go into image and work that way, or start with edit image. So if you don't have any images yet and you want to create something from scratch, we can go into image, and we have some quite helpful little templates essentially. So if you click them, in brand new projects, you'll see that the prompt bar down the bottom changes each time I hover over them. So for instance, this one helps you get up and running with a sketch to render. You'll see that here in the reference box is a sketch, and then it has a pre-filled prompt for you as well. It also pre-selects the model, does a lot of little handy things to get you up and running. Or if you want to use the prompt again for a day to night cycle, this will be an easy way for you to do that as well, and just change your initial rendering from morning to evening. Or if you want to use, an additional reference image to change the style, that's a kind of 3 simple things to get up and running if you're not familiar with prompting in general, or how you can combine these things. But in the simplest form, everything happens around the prompt bar, whether it's text or an image as influence. So I can run this really quickly. So turn this architectural sketch into a photorealistic rendering with natural materials. Yep. And if I just run it, hopefully shouldn't take too long. This model should be pretty quick. And if my internet, yeah. So then if I click it, should be able to look at it in large, and then we can compare. So the input sketch and then the output geometry. And that's very simple, right? So we're really only adding a prompt there and our initial sketch to begin with. Let me bring someone else in. Yeah, and that's essentially the easiest way to go from a sketch to a rendering. Takes you literally no effort, if I'm honest. But if I go back to edit, how do the credits work? I'm showing. Okay. So this is I guess this is an easy one. So I'll answer questions throughout as well. So feel free to ask questions as we go. Each model has its own credit cost, essentially, depending on the model you want to use and how many. For instance, let's do the Flux 2 Klein 4B model, right? If I want to generate 4 images, it will be 4 credits. I can switch the images down to 1 or switch it to 4, But for instance, the Flux 2 Flex model, considerably more expensive model because it requires a lot more, compute essentially in the background. And that's the main differentiation between each of these models. It is dependent on each individual model. The same you'll see with the video models, the enhanced models. Each one has, different parameters in which you can change, and the credits will be subtracted based on that model that you've selected. So yeah, you can use whichever model you'd like, and I recommend for everyone to check it out. If I'm perfectly honest, I think that's something that's quite nice about having multiple models, is that they do have their own peculiarities and their own kind of individualities as well, and some are better than others. In most cases, I find myself using Nano Banana 2. I sometimes like the GPT image to edit, and the Flux 2 Pro model is one of my favorite models. I think it produces really, really great results, and also quite reliable and fast at doing the things that you would expect. So let me click this new session button, and I'll import something. If I go to my uploads, let's take this. So I'm just checking to see if my screen is too zoomed in or too zoomed out, but it looks okay. So when we're doing any virtual staging, you usually have a set of furniture or like some idea that you want to bring into the space. And genuinely, the easiest way to do this is I like to use the Flux 2 model. Feel free to choose whichever you think, whichever you prefer. They have, again, different qualities. The Flux 2 model works well for me, Nano Banana 2 as well. So I'll run with Nano Banana 2 for this use case. And if I press this plus here, the reference image, and go into my uploads, I can then start to, I've uploaded some furniture, some samples, some materials and things like that. For instance, we could, add this chair from Hey. Let's go back and I'll also add this chair. And let's say we sample this image as well. So I can do something simple like add these furniture pieces. in a cohesive way to this interior space without changing the interior structure, right? Like we can keep it really simple. And I'm just going to generate 2 images. Gives us, a couple of options. I like to, when you're at least first testing, try to generate 1 or 2 images, because really you know you're going to get something close to this with adding these pieces of furniture to the space. You don't know how it's going to be arranged, especially if this is like just initial ideation as to like what happens when we do this. And this can work with any interior, right? So like you could have something like this. It really doesn't matter, and you can use samples as well. It doesn't have to be just furniture. It could be an inspirational image. And here we go. We've got our 2 renderings back already. Okay, so what you'll see it's done is it's added both of those chairs. So the green one from Hay and the pink one. It's also sampled this reference image. So if I show you the reference image, just so you can see. So this is the other reference image. So it's tried its best to, estimate what that green chair would look like. Obviously, it only has some small amount of context, and then it's added it to the space. And then if I compare, shouldn't have changed the underlying geometry. You might, what you do get sometimes is some shifting in the sizing of the image, because each model produces varying outputs, essentially, whether it's an exactly 16:9 or a 7:4. Again, peculiarities. So just something to be aware of, but really shouldn't have changed the underlying. And then again, something similar, starts to play with scale a little bit, which may or may not be the way you want to approach it, but does a pretty great job, I would say, in a very, very quick amount of time. And you could, of course, go in and start to edit it, or for instance, let's say you want to expand the image. So these tools here are kind of editing tools. You can expand it, edit an area, replace an area, or we can do the camera control that I showed you guys really at the beginning. Possible to be more precise. You could, the best way you're going to get in terms of results for precision is adding 3D models to the space. So like literally working with 3D. In terms of just working with 2D inputs, you can be precise in terms of your prompting. For instance, you could ask it to, on the back wall, in the front, facing a direction. That's one way to approach it. I would caveat that with it'll be precise to an extent. You will ultimately get the best results if you have a 3D model of the space with the furniture already there, and you just want to essentially turn that, SketchUp screenshot into a rendering. Yeah, we could try turn the sofa 90 degrees. Let's try. So we could do like rotate the green sofa 90 degrees on the back wall. So we can see what this does. I'm only doing 1, maybe I should have done 2, because we're playing with fire a little bit here to see how well it responds. I'll do 1 more just for the sake of it, so that we can see what kind of results we get over two renderings. But I would recommend, like, if you want to be super precise about it, if you're using your SketchUp model and you already have furniture in the space, then that'll definitely be the best way to do this. It does look like it's not too bad, right? So this is our initial image here. And then, like I said, specified that it's in the back wall. And it's rotated, and it's moved the the pink chair as you would, you would hope that the pink chair wouldn't be in the same location as the sofa. So pretty decent in terms of movement of furniture. Not something I'm going to say is going to work every single time. So it's a caveat for sure. But yeah, that's like the easiest way to just bring in furniture into the space. And what you can do, well, it's imagined now that we have a part of the furniture. So this is the other image that I generated, and you'll see that it has done what was asked, did move it to the back, but at the same time it's kept this this sectional part of the sofa. So it works 50% of the time so far. But that's us adding specific furniture. You can also grab moods as well. So a mood board could be, for instance, let me open one for you. Could be a sample like this. It could be more samples. It could be just photos of individual pieces of furniture. Could be an image from a Pinterest board or something. Each resolution of rendering. Yeah, so this is one thing that's definitely important to note. Whenever you're constantly generating and changing the image, there will be some degradation. Essentially, the AI is constantly looking at the same pixels and changing bits and pieces, even if it's not perceptible to us in most cases. I would always recommend that, once you're happy with an image, after a few iterations, you can always enhance it. And it'll basically just bring back that sharpness. So that's the best way to kind of avoid having any kind of loss in quality. And also in terms of resolution, you can come in and just export at 4K, export at 8K if you'd like. And at every time you should have a 4K or 8K image. One thing, again, to be aware of is that each model has its own peculiarities in terms of the output resolution, right? Some will like to do, for instance, in this case, because we're rendering at 2K, this is the resolution here versus, our input image, or this one, which is, 880 by 1184. It really depends on the model and your inputs and the resolutions in terms of like what you've decided. If you don't have 3 drawings, but if you have 2D, you can start with that. So for instance, let me jump back into edit. For instance, I have, if you have drawings like this, obviously this is an exterior, but if you have interior elevations, then you could use those as a way to generate your visuals, essentially. What I would always recommend is that you use drawings that are quite clear without additional. So for instance, a drawing like this versus a drawing like this is going to produce vastly worse results. Probably terrible results, if I'm perfectly honest. And it's mostly because there's so much confusion going on that the AI, starts to read these dimension lines as, structural elements and things like that. So if you can clean up your drawings as best as possible, that you'll get pretty good results. If you have 3D or 3D screenshots that have materials, you'll get even better. It's really, I guess, a lot of people like to talk about it as kind of garbage in, garbage out. If you have higher quality stuff in, yeah, exactly. So if you get rid of all the kind of excess in your drawings and just the nice line work, then it'll give you much better results, essentially. You'll get much better results. I can show you, for instance, like if we do like more realistic concrete skyscraper in the middle of Miami. We'll try to change the perspective. We'll see. We might have varied results here. And I'll try the same with this image as an input, just to hopefully nail the point. But I bet you, it's a live demo, so I'm sure it will be the complete opposite, and the one with the dimensioning will produce the best results. It's always the case with anything that's live. But in most, like genuinely from all of our testing, the simpler your drawings and the cleaner and clearer they are, the better results. I think you got to treat the AI as like an early stage designer that you're working with. Okay, so it's started to hallucinate a little bit as well. So it has extended the architecture beyond the bottom line. Again, those are things that you can do to make your visuals better in terms of the input, like drawing the full line across, because as you see, it's stuck to the geometry pretty well, but it's decided that below this line was also a floor, rather than that being ground level. Let's see what the other one did. And like I said, I actually produced better results, but take my word for it. But feel free to explore it as well. You'll see that it's also tried to draw in skyscrapers at the size of the dimensioning on the right-hand side, which is quite funny. But okay, sorry, there's another question. Okay, so what I would do is it all comes from your input drawing, right? So that's the main thing. I would draw the line across. If you have 3D, even better. If you have already like some materials on it or something, even better again. But just ensuring that your drawing looks like it can't be misinterpreted. I think again, think of the AI as an intern trying to understand how to turn this into a visualization for you. Can produce really beautiful results, but you gotta help it over the line essentially. Okay, so for virtual staging, you genuinely just open up the edit panel here and then upload your image. Then all you need to do is press the add reference image, and I already had furniture that I had already uploaded, but you can click on uploads, press the upload button, and then upload any pieces of furniture or inspiration you have. So I kind of mentioned it already, but it could be an inspiration. So this is just an image from Pinterest. It could be, use this inspiration image to fill out the interior space with modern furniture and finishings, something like that. I'll do 2 as well, just so that you can see the variety. Right now, I can actually grab another interior space and do the same thing again. This time I'll do it with this space because it's, again, something slightly different. And most of the generations will take between 10 and 15 seconds. Again, it all depends on the model. For instance, the Flux Climb models are not as smart as some of the others, but a lot faster. So let's see what we got. Okay, so it's tried its best to integrate the artwork, similar artwork from the image as well. We have 2 of these. Let's see this one. And again, part of my prompt is helping it out. We never wrote that key piece of information. Don't change the underlying structure, which it started to do in the back wall here. Let me let someone else in. But yeah, so that's essentially how you go from like a really simple, it could be an image of just something from Pinterest, it could be a mood board, anything that you find inspiring that you want to try to see how it would look in that space. For instance, this is a bit more of a maximalist approach, sampling a bunch of the types of furniture, the artwork that's on the wall from that initial image. So it really depends on what you put in it. And you'll see like small hallucinations that you can fix by, telling it not to do that. Essentially, that's we're doing really quick prompts here, but I always find that keeping the prompts as simple as possible will get you also the best results. You don't need, an essay of instructions. Usually individual instructions, like one after another, will produce better results. For instance, we added only a couple of these chairs, and then we asked it to rotate that one chair. That was 2 individual instructions, and we got nicer results than just saying like, hey, try to inspire yourself and fill out this space. So again, treat it like an intern that you're trying to give some small individual instructions to and lead them along the right path. Essentially, that's the nicest way I can think of the process. Okay, so maybe what we can do, since we've kind of covered the basics of, we add an image that's an interior space, we start to add furniture. Could you talk a bit more about how, sorry, 2 seconds. Okay, yeah, so definitely. So in your prompt, I'll show you the images that I used, right? So my initial images were individual furniture pieces. You can tell it, add the green chair, add the green sofa, add this lamp, add that, and it'll do its best to, if you have 4 images that are all the same or similar green sofas with similar lamps, then it'll be confused. If you have one image, a reference that is a green sofa, one that's a lamp, one that's a pink chair, you'll get better results, right? Like that'll produce better results. In terms of going from, let me see if I can find it, like a sample or an inspirational image that has a lot of essentially visual noise going on. It has a table, it has a statue, it has lamps, it has hanging lamps, it has paintings on the wall. And based on our very, very short prompt, we basically just told it, use this as inspiration, try your best. The more specific we are about it, the better results you'll get. So you can say like, just take the paintings or add this or remove that. And that's usually the best way to approach it. The same with any image in general, right? So we could just say, remove the green sofa. Like if you want to add something, like incremental steps, I think that's kind of the core thing in general when you're working with AI. That's interesting. Yeah, I've never tried the long kind of numbered structured approach, but it'll depend on the models that you're using. The Nano Banana Pro and Nano Banana 2 models are probably pretty good at it, at following those instructions. I find across the board, those simple incremental steps, you usually get pretty good results. So just remove the sofa, and quite funnily, I would say, it has moved the pillow onto the table, which is quite neat. But you can do this, in multiple ways. If you want to just use prompts, the models will do a pretty good job at, adding or subtracting things. For instance, you could say, I can grab, if I can find it. Okay, I have another green sofa, so like, add this green sofa to the back wall. And the shortcut for, hitting render without clicking the button, you can press the Control and Enter, or Command and Enter, I think, on the Mac, which is a quick way to send your renderings if you like. Yeah, and that's essentially the basics of adding, subtracting, filling a space, making manipulations to that space as well, and the prompting. It's iterative. Expect it to take 1 or 2 attempts to get it in the direction that you want. It doesn't fully always understand what you're asking it to do, and quite often than not, that second attempt is where it really nails it. So, for instance, it's added the furniture after we've removed it. So it's done a pretty good job adding that sofa. And this time it's added the sofa again, has added a little additional piece of the sofa, which is not perfect. But again, we rendered two, so we have one that is much closer aligned to what we're looking for. I started talking about this, but we kind of get sidetracked. These are your kind of editing tools. I spend most of my time in edit mode because I think we have the most tools here to play around with. Let's say we just want to edit a specific area of an image, right? We can select the edit area tool. What's quite cool about the edit area tool is that you can select an area, and it has some context of the rest of your image as well, but it will only affect within this masked area. So you can say, make the sofa light pink. And by default, it creates 4 images, but I think we'll be able to do it in 2. Can you go from a 2D plan drawing to a 3D view of a room? Definitely, you definitely can. 2 seconds, let's see. Yeah, okay, so yeah, we've successfully made the sofa pink. And you can do that for exterior or interior as well. Start again from the point. Yeah, so sorry, I'm answering a lot of questions here at the same time, so hopefully you guys are following along, or at least getting something out of it. So if you want to go back a step, pretty much all of your images that you've created are on the left-hand side inside sessions. Literally nothing is destructive. So for instance, the first image we started with is here. And if you want, this is something I do, it's a small tip. Down the bottom right, you can click Fit View, which will zoom in the image. And you can also lock the canvas, which makes it so much easier to scroll up and down on the left-hand side. Useful. It just means that you can't scroll in and out of the canvas, but you can easily unlock it and move it in as you would like. So all of your images, everything you've uploaded, edited, changed, will all be on the left-hand side. So where we started, the furniture we added, the other options, some of the other options, I think, up here, and then all the way up to when we started adding the pink sofa. So you can always go back. We never ever kind of ruin that initial step. And what you'll see on the right-hand side in generation details, it'll show you the images that you input when you made that generation. It'll tell you the model you used, it'll tell you like the aspect ratio, when it was created, and also the prompt, which you can click and copy. So you can use the edit area to add or remove or subtract as well. I find that I get best results by allowing the model to just use prompts. So like a Nano Banana Pro or a Flux 2 Pro usually does a pretty good job at adding something to the scene. I usually find that they produce better results. But yeah, you can definitely use the edit area if you want to prompt it, right? So you don't have the ability currently to add an image of, for instance, you want to replace this sofa, you know exactly where the sofa is, and you have a replacement sofa for it. Currently don't support that, but it is something that we're working towards as well to make it a lot simpler, and you can be very specific as to what you add. Hopefully that answers that question. And someone asked, can you go from 2D plan drawing to 3D? Yeah, so I did a blog quite a while ago of kind of 2D plans to rooms. I think the best way to do this is your 2D plan has almost no information, right? It's the same thing as asking the intern, hey, imagine this space as yeah, imagine the entire space from this 2D, which you definitely can. It just will take a lot of steps. So it'll be you have the plan. For instance, I don't have a plan on hand, but for instance, let's say we have the 2D drawing, that's top down. You would then probably first add the materials that you want in the space, so that then you provide more context to the AI essentially. And then from that, start asking it to take, views from that interior space, view from here, or view from the living room, and then be detailed of, like, perhaps the living room has a green rug or it has a blue wall or something like that based on the initial generation. And that's the easiest way to go from 2D plan to but again, I would always recommend that if you have 3D, or even if it's like really rudimentary 3D, you'll likely get better results. Or if you have elevations or a sketch. I don't know if I showed you guys. So for instance, if you have an exterior sketch, let's see if I can find one here for you. It's quite detailed, but if you had anything even remotely close, you'd be able to get close to a visualization really, really quickly. And again, you could use, I've done it with furniture, but it applies directly to exterior projects as well, where you can sample a material palette, or you could even get another building. So I'm adding another building here, and you could just say, like, turn this sketch into a photorealistic building in London. Use the reference image as inspiration. Apologies. Inspiration for the material palette. Infill palette. That'll do. Yeah, and if I just do like two. One thing I like to do is, there's a lot of buildings in this image, right? So in order to just help the AI a little bit, is just tell it the main building in the center. For the material palette, for the main building in the center. And hopefully, just by giving it that extra helping hand, and it's set to UK English. That extra helping hand will hopefully produce much better results to begin with. But again, you can use reference images of projects that you think is interesting, or you want to sample that material. You can grab materials, start to specify that it's terracotta, it's timber, and that'll produce in most cases quite nice results. And it's a good way for you to swap out materials as well. So let's see what we get. All right, okay. Pretty good, I would say. Let's see the other one. So this one looks, so you'll see that it's straightened up some of those buildings just for the perspective. It's decided it's 1970s London, but still pretty good in terms of what we put in. We put in this green shingles. I'll show you the input image. It's a green shingle project, yeah. And we have very similar result here. And like what you could do, you could try this material sample for the main architecture. And let's see if we can change it to something that's more terracotta and brick with some timber. Again, at this stage, we're looking for ideation rather than final polish. Final polish, I can jump into and show you. And I think if you have a 3D model for that, you'll get the best results. That's where you can really nail what you're looking for. And the best, if you have some materials you've added in SketchUp or something like that, you'll get even nicer results. All right, cool. So basically just try to replace the green shingles with what looks like a more orange kind of terracotta brick. We'll see what the last one does. actually done part of my work for me, where it's made it evening as well, which is quite nice. And I like to show this because it's super simple. And a lot of people are like, oh, how do we change the environment? How do we change the from night to day? Very simple. Your prompting can also be really easy. It can be like, make this a foggy morning, long shadows. Or you could say, make return this rendering into an evening. And it doesn't have to be, the same prompt over and over again. Okay, someone's asking. Okay, yeah, so essentially it'll help you just, Mike, it'll just help you summarize the blog for you and help Claude or GPT, whoever if you have any AI assistants that you're working with, then they'll get a better understanding of what Fenestra can do and help you answer the documentation, basically, and can point you in the right direction. It's just a helpful tool for that. Yeah, and then you can see super simple prompt. It's now foggy. Still 1970s London. Still got some nice neon glow. Let's see if the evening one loads in. Yeah. So then again, it was already a little bit dusk. Darkened the sky. Cars now have their lights on. Really, really simple. So maybe just, I know we have like very little time now, but if you guys do want to use 3D models, the best way to do it is you can just go click and upload. We support GLB, FBX, and 3DM. Pretty much any software package can export FBX, whether that's SketchUp, Rhino, Revit, ArchiCAD, pretty much anything. And you can just import your 3D model and you'll get it like this. If, for instance, your canvas is moved around, you can't zoom in directly in 3D mode just so that it's fixed, but you can click the fit view on the bottom right as well, and that's the easiest way to just organize yourself there. On the right-hand side, you'll see that the generation details has changed. You now have camera controls, essentially. You can do your field of view. You can tighten that up. You can play with the sun intensity, time of day, and the environment intensity, and also the rotation of that environment. So there's an underlying HDR, essentially, that allows you to better light your scene. And what I always do is set up multiple camera views. Just makes my life a lot easier. So I can come in and just, click the plus, and then I can easily cycle between those camera views. And again, the same as what we've been doing so far. It's like you can literally just say, make the rendering, turn the 3D model into a photorealistic rendering. And I'll do 2 just for see what variations we get. At the moment, we don't directly connect with Claude. It's something we are working on, essentially plugging into agents. And we don't have any direct connections with, for instance, a SketchUp or a ArchiCAD or anything like that. Mostly because there's so many additional 3D modeling softwares to support. And we find that in a lot of cases, your screenshots or your exports from there get you most of the way there, and is much faster than having a plugin that does, it works for SketchUp or it works for ArchiCAD. But it's definitely something we're going to explore in the future. But for now, we don't have that support. And you'll see, like, because we have quite a lot of context, the AI doesn't have to hallucinate. It fills in pretty much the exact material. It also is following the underlying materials for the timber, the roof. It does have a little bit of creative control over small aspects of the project, which in my perspective is actually really quite good. For instance, I have a very cardboard looking bed here, and it makes it, you know, a lot nicer. Yeah, and that's essentially how you go from, you know, fully 3D, you know, to a finished rendering. And this is the second one that we generated, and you'll see that it pretty much exactly aligns to the underlying geometry as well. And then from there, if you already have the base, you can then, you know, change the environment. You can start to edit it as well. That's really the best way to approach it, is get to a base that you're happy with. Get to bring someone else in. Yeah, get to a rendering, right? So that you've got from here, right? So it's a big step from here to here, or to here. You know, we're already pretty much the whole way there. Then it might be small individual tweaks. It might be, like I said, going in and editing specific areas. It might be trying to create a new camera angle, which, because you have the 3D, you can actually create it this way. And one thing that's quite neat, and I like to point everyone in this direction, is if you have a rendering that you're happy with of the project, for instance, this one, you can use that image as a reference for generating other images, so that you have a much greater level of consistency. And you can say something like, use the photo realistic reference as reference. And then you can click generate. And then hopefully what we should get is, you know, this nice grass on the outside. We should have the same materials. We should have similar time of day as the input, and that's hopefully gives us a good result. All right, let's see. Oh, I apologize. We're actually over time for you guys. If anybody wants to stay on for another couple of minutes, what I can show you is I'll show you a video rendering. Just as a quick parting gift, I guess, is it's actually decided to, it's quite interesting, this one. So it's changed our perspective a little bit, which is depending on how you feel about it. It's good or bad. I guess if you really love this view, it's not ideal. But that's why I like to do 2 renderings or 3 at a time, just to make sure that it, you know, sometimes you'll get ones that try to fix your rendering perspective and some won't. To be honest, I think it's not too bad. Just check one more thing. Yeah, it actually looks pretty good. So I think what I can do with it is just jump to video, and we can blend between them. I think that would be a nice thing to finish with. So we have this one. This can be our end frame for our animation, and this will be our start frame for our animation. And what I've been playing around with recently is the Seed Dance 2.0 Fast, which is a bit more expensive model, but does produce really nice results, and also produces audio, which is pretty neat. So I can say something like smooth transition, background noise, no music. This model likes to add its own music somehow at specific moments, but we can just hit the rendering button as well. Because I've been answering lots of questions, I didn't get through everything, but hopefully there's been enough that it gives you guys a better understanding of, you know, what Fenestra can do, and also what you can do with AI in general. When you're creating any videos inside Fenestra, like you can do, like we just did, you can use a start frame or an end frame which is essentially the first frame of your video and the last frame, and the AI will interpolate between. You can also just use your start frame. You don't need an end frame, and you can use our kind of camera presets that give you very cinematic looks. So it'd be like zooming in slowly, zoom out, panning left and right, dolly, that type of thing. And that really, you can get quite a lot out of an individual image from something like that. But I think once you start to think of it's a model of adding references, adding prompts, using images to influence others, you can start to think like perhaps we could make an evening shot of this and then transition to an evening shot from morning to evening as well. And the same with if you want to transition across time, for instance, you want to do a snowing animation or something like that. That's all very similar like processes, nothing kind of brand new in that. And that's basically the way that you'd go about it. Yeah, data evening can be really pretty cool. And if you can do it entirely by prompting, or like I said, do the start and last frame, and you'll get pretty good results from that, because then you know exactly how it's going to end. And you don't get any kind of hallucination from the AI. Okay, so this is our animation. It's 10 seconds long, like we put, and it should have audio, so I'll turn it down so it's not so loud for you guys. Oh, this is funny. It's actually tried to rotate the entire way around. It actually did not so bad a job, but I would have liked it to rotate in the opposite direction. It would have been a much smaller rotation. But definitely an interesting result. And again, the closer those frames are, the better results you'll get, right? So if it's day to night, it'll be easier to be more consistent. All right, so apologies that we didn't get through so much, and hopefully we didn't really have a dedicated time for questions and answers, but if anybody does have any questions, please feel free to either drop them in the chat, or I shot my email at the very beginning of this chat as well, so feel free to grab that and shoot me an email. And you should, I think, get an automated message from Luma that organized the event to provide some feedback. If there's any feedback on, that would be more than appreciated. Yeah, so thank you very much and appreciate your time. Let me know if there's anything that I can do to help, and feel free to send some feedback through that documentation as well. Next time we'll try to be even more streamlined, but hopefully it gives you a good idea. All right, well, thank you very much.